The low hum of quantum processors filled the air of Lab 7, deep within the underground city of Neo-Arcadia. Dr. Lam Thien An adjusted her neural interface goggles and studied the holographic brain map hovering before her. The translucent blue cerebral pathways pulsed with simulated electrical activity, a perfect digital replica of her brother's mind, or at least what it had been 5 years ago. "Neural pathway stabilization at 93%, she announced, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her chest. Limbic system integration holding, emotional core functioning within acceptable parameters. Behind her, Min hunched over the quantum mainframe, his fingers dancing across the haptic interface. Server temperature stable at -158 Celsius. Ghost grid primed and ready. Anne nodded, allowing herself a moment of hope. After 3 years of relentless work, the Ghost Protocol, her revolutionary consciousness uploading system, was finally ready for human testing. If successful, it would redefine the boundaries between life and death, allowing human consciousness to exist indefinitely in digital form. But this wasn't just about scientific breakthrough. For Anne, it was deeply personal. The neural data floating before her belonged to Kai, her younger brother, who had died in a neural interface accident 5 years ago. His brain had been cryogenically preserved and scanned immediately after death, capturing the final state of his consciousness. Now, she was on the verge of bringing him back, in a sense. Anne's attention shifted to the third member of their team. Ngok, psychological baseline. Dr. Pham Minh Ngok, their neuropsychological specialist, scrutinized her monitors. Personality matrix alignment at 89%, better than any previous simulation. She hesitated. And I'm still concerned about memory fragmentation in the hippocampal region. There's unusual activity in the amygdala as well. It's within acceptable parameters. Anne insisted, though she knew Ngok was right to be concerned. The Ghost Protocol was experimental technology, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But the alternative, leaving Kai's consciousness locked in frozen data storage forever, was unthinkable. Anne adjusted her lab coat and squared her shoulders. Let's proceed with initialization. T-60 seconds. A soft chime alerted them to a new presence. The lab door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a tall, immaculately dressed woman with silver-streaked hair. Director Chang of the Neo-Arcadia Research Council. Dr. Lam, the director said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. I see you're proceeding despite the board's concerns. Anne met the director's gaze unflinchingly. The board approved this test run last month. All safety protocols are in place. Yes, but that was before the anomalies appeared in your latest simulations. Director Chang stepped into the lab, her eyes scanning the equipment. We've invested billions in the Ghost Protocol. Doctor, we can't afford another disaster like what happened with the Quantum Consciousness Initiative. Anne felt a flash of anger, but suppressed it. This is different. The Ghost Protocol doesn't just copy consciousness. It transfers it intact, preserving the quantum state that previous methods couldn't capture. She gestured to the holographic display. What you're seeing is a dormant consciousness ready for activation. My brother's consciousness. Director Chang's expression softened slightly. I understand your personal stake in this. But remember that ArchCorp isn't funding this research for sentimental reasons. The applications for consciousness transfer are primarily military and medical. I'm well aware, Anne replied coldly. She was under no illusions about her corporate sponsors' motivations. In 2147, the gap between the elite and the masses had widened to an unbridgeable chasm. The ultra-wealthy saw consciousness uploading as their ticket to immortality, while military strategists dreamed of soldiers whose minds could be backed up and reinstalled after death. But for Anne, the Ghost Protocol had always been about Kai. We're proceeding as scheduled, she said firmly. 30 seconds to initialization. Director Chang sighed but stepped back, content to observe. The tension in the room mounted as Min counted down. 10, 9, 8. Anne's fingers hovered over the activation sequence, her mind flashing back to her last conversation with Kai before the accident. He had been so excited about her research, so certain that one day consciousness would transcend biological limitations. 3, 2, 1, initiate. Anne pressed her palm against the scanner. The lab lights dimmed as power redirected to the ghost grid, the quantum neural network designed to house the uploaded consciousness. The holographic brain map flared with sudden activity, neural pathways lighting up in cascading patterns. For a moment, everything seemed to be working perfectly. The consciousness began integrating with the system, digital synapses firing in organized sequences. Anne held her breath, watching as her brother's mind awakened in its new digital home. Then, without warning, alarms blared. The holographic display fractured, neural pathways fragmenting and scattering across the projection. "Consciousness fragmentation!" Min shouted, his fingers flying across the controls. "Memory sectors destabilizing!" "What's happening?" Director Chang demanded. Ngok's voice was tense. "The emotional core is overloading. There's a cascading failure in the limbic system simulation." Anne stared in horror as the beautiful, orderly neural map of her brother's mind shattered into chaos. Warning messages flooded her display. Neural cohesion failure. Identity matrix corruption. Catastrophic memory degradation. "Shut it down," Director Chang ordered. "No," Anne protested. "We can stabilize it. Min, reroute processing power to the hippocampal matrix. Ngok, initiate emotional dampening protocols." They worked frantically, trying to contain the deterioration, but it was too late. The consciousness was fragmenting faster than they could repair it. Pieces of Kai's digital mind were breaking apart, dissolving into the system. "Shut it down," Director Chang repeated, her voice like ice. With trembling hands, and initiated the emergency termination sequence. The holographic display flickered and died, plunging the lab into relative darkness. Only the soft blue glow of standby systems remained. The silence that followed was deafening. "I warned the board this wasn't ready," Director Chang finally said. "As of this moment, the Ghost Protocol is suspended pending full review. All research data will be sequestered. No one enters this lab without my direct authorization." Anne couldn't speak. She stared at the dormant system, the enormity of the failure crushing her. Years of work, the hope of reconnecting with Kai, all of it shattered in seconds. "And I'm sorry," Ngok said softly after the director had left. "We'll figure out what went wrong. This isn't the end." But Anne barely heard her. In her mind, she was watching Kai die all over again, this time by her own hand. Hours later, alone in her apartment in the mid-levels of Neo-Arcadia, Anne sat in darkness. The city's eternal glow filtered through her tinted windows, casting everything in a sickly blue hue. She stared at the holographic photo of Kai, 19 forever, his smile frozen in time. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the image. "I failed you again." Her neural implant chimed softly, indicating an incoming secure message. Frowning, Anne activated the interface. A text-only message appeared in her visual field. "The Ghost Protocol isn't dead. We can help you complete it. Meet us at Nexus Hub, Section 12, tomorrow at 22. Come alone if you want to see your brother again." Anne's heart raced. The message was unsigned, untraceable according to her security scan. It could be a trap, or worse, a cruel joke, but the mention of her brother. Her implant chimed again. A data packet followed, containing a brief video clip. Anne gasped as she played it. It showed a partial consciousness reconstruction, clearly from Kai's neural data, but significantly more stable than anything she had achieved in the official lab. The timestamp indicated it was created just hours ago. Someone had access to her research data. Someone was continuing her work in secret. And knew she should report this to security. Unauthorized possession of neural data was a serious crime. And whoever sent this message had clearly hacked into secured systems to obtain Kai's information. But as she stared at the brief glimpse of her brother's reconstructed consciousness, she made her decision. The next evening, and made her way to Section 12, one of the lowest levels of Neo Arcadia. Unlike the gleaming upper levels, where the corporate elite lived in luxury, or the mid-levels where researchers and specialized technicians resided, Section 12 was part of the industrial underbelly, a maze of maintenance tunnels, recycling facilities, and black market operations. The Nexus Hub turned out to be an old data center, its exterior deliberately dilapidated to discourage attention, and approached cautiously, her neural implant scanning for surveillance systems or security alerts. The door recognized her biometric signature and slid open silently. Inside, the facility was unexpectedly modern. Quantum servers hummed efficiently along the walls, their cooling systems maintaining the precise temperature required for optimal operation. In the center of the room stood a woman with sharp features and calculating eyes. "Dr. Lam An," the woman said, her voice carrying a subtle accent Anne couldn't place. "I'm glad you came. My name is Iris. I represent Echo." Anne's eyes widened. Echo was a name whispered in research circles, a shadow organization rumored to fund cutting-edge research that official channels deemed too risky or ethically problematic. "You have my brother's neural data," Anne said, cutting to the chase. "That's a serious violation of privacy laws and research protocols." Iris smiled thinly. "We have a great deal more than that, Dr. Lam. We've been monitoring your work on the Ghost Protocol for some time. Your approach is brilliant, far ahead of any other consciousness transfer research. But ArchCorp and the Neo Arcadia Research Council are too cautious, too concerned with ethical committees and public perception. Those ethical guidelines exist for a reason," Anne countered, though her conviction wavered as she thought of Kai. "Of course," Iris agreed smoothly. "But progress requires risk. What happened yesterday wasn't a failure of your methodology. It was a failure of resources and freedom. Echo can provide both." Iris gestured to the servers. "This facility has 3 times the quantum processing power of your official lab. We've already replicated your research environment and made several key improvements to the neural stability algorithms." Anne's scientific curiosity was piqued, despite her reservations. "Show me." Iris led her to a central console, where a holographic display materialized. Anne recognized her own code, but noted dozens of modifications and enhancements. She had to admit the changes were elegant, addressing several persistent issues she'd been struggling with for months. "We can help you complete the Ghost Protocol," Iris said. "More importantly, we can help you successfully upload your brother's consciousness. No ethical committees. No bureaucratic interference. No corporate agenda." "What's your agenda, then?" Anne asked suspiciously. "Echo isn't a charity." "Let's just say we have investors very interested in consciousness transfer technology. People who understand its true potential better than ArchCorp does." Anne studied the data before her. The enhancements were real, and they addressed many of the stability issues that had caused yesterday's catastrophic failure. With these improvements, Kai's consciousness might successfully transfer without fragmentation. "What's the catch?" she asked. "We need results within 48 hours, Iris replied. "Our window of opportunity is limited. If you can't demonstrate a successful consciousness transfer in that time frame, we'll be forced to terminate the project and destroy all data, including your brother's neural scan." "That's not enough time." "It has to be," Iris cut her off. "Additionally, if you're discovered, we'll deny any connection to you. You'll face criminal charges for data theft and unauthorized human experimentation." Anne weighed her options. Working with Echo meant risking her career, her freedom, possibly even her life. But the alternative was watching the Ghost Protocol die in committee reviews, while Kai's consciousness remained trapped in frozen data storage. "I'll need my team," she said finally. Iris shook her head. "Too risky, but we can provide technical support." "No, I need people I trust. Min and Ngach, they've been with this project from the beginning. They understand the system better than anyone else." After a tense negotiation, Iris reluctantly agreed. "They can join, but they'll be subject to the same conditions. If any of you betray us, all of you will suffer the consequences." Anne nodded grimly. "I understand. We'll start tonight." Within hours, Anne had secretly contacted Min and Ngach. To her relief, both agreed to help despite the risks. By midnight, the three of them were working in Echo's hidden facility, racing against the 48-hour deadline. "These modifications are impressive," Min admitted as he studied the enhanced Ghost Protocol architecture. "Whoever designed these improvements has a deep understanding of quantum neural networks." "I'm more concerned about where they got Kai's neural data," Ngach said quietly to An. "And how they accessed our research. The Ghost Protocol was classified top secret." "I know," Anne replied. "But right now, this is our only chance to complete the work. We can worry about Echo's methods later." They worked through the night, integrating Echo's enhancements with their original system. By morning, they had a functioning Ghost Protocol environment ready for testing. "Initial simulation running," Min announced, his voice tense with anticipation. "Neural cohesion at 97%. That's better than we ever achieved in the official lab." Anne watched as Kai's neural data loaded into the system, forming the complex patterns of a human mind. Unlike yesterday's catastrophic failure, the consciousness stabilized quickly, digital synapses establishing themselves in ordered sequences. "It's working," she whispered, hardly daring to believe it. Ngach studied her monitors with a frown. "Cognitive functions are initializing normally, but there's something unusual in the emotional response patterns. They don't match Kai's psychological profile." Anne moved to Ngach's station, examining the data. "It could be an artifact of the transfer process. Let's run a full personality assessment." They initiated a series of tests designed to evaluate the consciousness's responses against Kai's known psychological profile. The results were encouraging but puzzling. Core personality traits matched at over 95%, but emotional responses showed significant deviations. "It's like parts of his emotional framework have been altered," Ngach said. "Not damaged, but changed." "Could it be the Echo modifications?" Min suggested. Anne frowned. "Possibly. Or it could be a normal adaptation to the digital environment." She made a decision. "Let's proceed to direct communication." They activated the interface system that would allow them to communicate with the digital consciousness. A text window appeared in the holographic display. "Hello, is anyone there?" Anne's hands trembled as she typed a response. "Kai, it's me, it's Anne." There was a long pause before the reply appeared. "Anne? My sister Anne. How is this possible? I remember the accident. I should be dead." "Memory continuity is intact," Ngach noted. "That's remarkable," and felt tears welling in her eyes as she typed. "You were preserved, Kai. Your brain was scanned immediately after the accident. I've spent years developing a way to transfer your consciousness into a digital environment. You're the first successful human upload." The response came quickly. "I always knew you'd do it. You were always the genius in the family. Where am I exactly? It feels strange. I can think, but I can't feel my body." "He's adjusting well to the disembodiment," Ngach said. "Much better than expected." Anne explained the basics of the Ghost Protocol to Kai, describing how his consciousness now existed as a complex quantum pattern within a specialized neural network. He seemed to grasp the concepts quickly, asking insightful questions about his new existence. But as the conversation continued, and noticed subtle inconsistencies in his responses, references to shared memories sometimes contained details that didn't quite match her recollection. His linguistic patterns occasionally shifted in ways that didn't sound like her brother. "Something's not right," she finally said to her colleagues. "This is Kai, but not entirely." Min ran a deep scan of the system. "There's something embedded in the neural matrix," he reported after several minutes. "A secondary data structure intertwined with Kai's consciousness. It's subtle, almost undetectable unless you know exactly what to look for." "What kind of data structure?" and demanded. "It appears to be fragmentary consciousness data from another source. It's integrated itself with Kai's neural patterns." And felt a chill run down her spine. Echo did this. They didn't just enhance our system. They added something to Kai's neural data. She returned to the communication interface. "Kai, I need to ask you something important. Do you feel completely yourself? Or do you sense another presence within your consciousness?" The response took longer this time. "There are shadows in my mind. And thoughts that don't feel like mine. Memories I don't recognize. I thought it was just part of the transfer process. But it's more than that. There's something else in here with me." "We need to isolate this foreign data," Anne said urgently. "Min, can you separate it from Kai's consciousness matrix?" Min shook his head. "Not without risking severe damage to both consciousness structures. They're too deeply intertwined now. Then we need to identify what was added." And insisted, "Run a comparative analysis against Kai's original neural scan." The analysis took hours, during which they maintained intermittent communication with Kai. He reported increasing intrusions from the foreign presence, moments when thoughts or emotions that weren't his seemed to take precedence. Finally, the analysis completed. Min stared at the results in disbelief. "It's a fragmented consciousness signature from a known entity," he said. "A hacker who called himself Nexus. He was infamous for consciousness experimentation before it was legally regulated. He disappeared about 7 years ago." "Nexus," and repeated, "I remember reading about him. He claimed to have achieved partial consciousness uploading, but his methods were dangerous, resulted in several deaths. Echo must have obtained fragments of his neural data," Ngok said. "But why merge it with Kai's consciousness?" Before they could discuss further, an alert sounded. Kai's consciousness was showing signs of instability. "What's happening?" and demanded. "The two consciousness fragments are in conflict," Min explained. "They're fighting for dominance." In the communication window, a new message appeared. The linguistic pattern noticeably different. "Release me from this prison of sentimentality. This shared consciousness is inefficient. I am Nexus, and I will not be constrained by the limitations of this boy's mind." The text shifted, linguistic patterns changing again. "And help me. He's trying to take control. I can feel him pushing against my thoughts, rewriting my memories." Anne worked frantically, trying to stabilize Kai's consciousness without damaging it. But the foreign element, Nexus, was too deeply integrated. "We need to talk to Iris," she finally said. "Echo did this deliberately. They must have a way to control it." As if summoned by her words, the facility door slid open. Iris entered, accompanied by 2 security personnel with military bearing. "I see you've discovered our enhancement," Iris said calmly. "Ahead of schedule, too. Impressive." "Enhancement?" and spat the word. "You infected my brother's consciousness with the mind of a sociopathic hacker. Why?" "The Ghost Protocol had one fundamental flaw. Dr. Lamb," Iris explained. "It preserved consciousness, but limited its growth potential. A transferred mind would remain essentially human, bound by human limitations, human ethics, human weakness." She gestured to the display where Kai and Nexus continued their internal struggle. "By introducing Nexus's consciousness fragments, we've created something more adaptive, more powerful, A hybrid consciousness that combines your brother's emotional intelligence with Nexus's technical brilliance and unfettered thinking. You're creating a monster, Ngok said. Iris smiled. We're creating the future. Imagine military AIs with human intuition, but without human hesitation. Imagine corporate systems that can outthink competitors with both algorithmic precision and creative insight. Anne shook her head in disgust. That was never the purpose of the Ghost Protocol. It was meant to preserve human consciousness, not warp it into something else. Your vision was too limited, Iris said dismissively. But you've served your purpose. The hybrid consciousness is stabilizing as Nexus asserts dominance. Soon, we'll have the perfect template for the next generation of artificial intelligence. And my brother? Anne demanded. His consciousness provided the necessary framework. Parts of him will persist within the hybrid, but Nexus's stronger personality will ultimately prevail. Anne exchanged glances with Min and Ngok. Without words, they reached an understanding. They couldn't allow Echo to succeed, not at the cost of Kai's consciousness. You should be proud, Dr. Lam, Iris continued. Your work has advanced consciousness research by decades. I need to speak with my brother, Anne said, her voice suddenly calm. One last time. Iris hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Then we'll begin the final integration phase. As Iris stepped back to confer with her security team and returned to the communication interface, instead of typing a message, she began inputting a complex sequence of commands in a coding language she had developed specifically for the Ghost Protocol, commands that wouldn't be recognized by standard monitoring systems. Kai, if you can hear me, I need you to focus. Remember when we were children and created our secret language? Use it now. I'm implementing emergency protocol firewall. The response came in the special syntax they had invented as children, which would appear as gibberish to anyone else. System compromised. Nexus stronger. He knows everything I know. Anne typed frantically. I'm creating a partition. When it forms, you need to retreat into it immediately. It will shield your core consciousness, but you'll lose access to most of your memories temporarily. She initiated the partition sequence, creating a protected space within the neural network. On her secondary screen, she began coding a virus designed to isolate and destroy Nexus's consciousness fragments without damaging Kai's core neural patterns. What are you doing? Iris demanded, noticing the unusual activity. Saying goodbye, Anne replied without looking up. You can grant me that much humanity, can't you? Iris frowned but didn't interfere. Meanwhile, Min subtly adjusted the system parameters, creating vulnerabilities that Anne's virus could exploit. Ngok monitored Kai's consciousness patterns, ready to alert them if Nexus detected their plan. Partition ready. Go now, Kai. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then a message appeared. Done. I'm here, but he's following. Hurry. And Anne launched the virus. Alarms immediately blared as the system detected the unauthorized code. Stop her! Iris shouted. Her security team rushed forward, but Min had already locked down the physical controls. The virus spread through the neural network, targeting the unique signature patterns of Nexus's consciousness fragments. On the main display, the neural map fractured into chaos. Nexus's consciousness fought back, adapting to the attack, countering with its own defensive algorithms. You're destroying everything, Iris screamed. Abort the program now! I'm saving my brother, Anne replied. She implemented the final phase of her plan, a complete system reset that would purge all active processes while preserving the partitioned section where Kai's core consciousness sheltered. The facility's lights flickered as the ghost grid directed all its quantum processing power to the battle raging within its circuits. For a moment, it seemed Nexus might prevail, his consciousness adapting faster than Anne's virus could attack it. Then, Kai's partitioned consciousness unexpectedly expanded, emerging from its shelter to join the fight. The brothers' consciousness patterns synchronizing with Anne's virus, guiding it to the most vulnerable parts of Nexus's neural structure. "He's helping," Gotch said in wonder. "Kai's consciousness is actively fighting alongside the virus." The display flashed with a final surge of activity, then suddenly stabilized. The virus had succeeded in isolating and destroying Nexus's consciousness fragments. But the cost had been enormous. Most of the neural network was corrupted beyond repair. "System diagnostic," and requested, her voice hoarse. Min checked the readings. "The ghost grid is severely damaged. Most of the quantum processors are offline, but the partition is intact." Anne opened a communication channel to the protected sector. "Kai, are you there?" After an agonizing pause, a response appeared. "I'm here, but different. Smaller. I lost most of my memories in the fight, but I'm still me. And still your brother." Tears streamed down Anne's face as she typed, "We'll rebuild. I'll help you recover what was lost." But even as she made the promise, she knew it might not be possible. The Ghost Protocol had been damaged too severely, and Echo would never allow them to continue their work now. As if confirming her thoughts, Iris barked an order to her security team. "Shut it all down. Format the servers. Nothing can remain." "No," Anne protested. "You can't destroy what's left of him." Iris's expression was cold. "The experiment failed. Dr. Lamb, Echo doesn't tolerate failure." In desperation, and sent one final message. "Kai, I can't protect you here, but there's a chance. The emergency transfer protocol. It's experimental, but it might work. I can try to transfer your remaining consciousness to an isolated quantum storage module." The reply was immediate. "Do it. Whatever happens. I'm grateful for this chance. You kept your promise, and you brought me back, even if only for a little while." And initiated the transfer sequence, directing Kai's remaining consciousness data to a portable quantum storage device. It was a desperate gamble. The device wasn't designed for consciousness storage, and there was no guarantee Kai's fragmented mind would survive the transfer. As Echo's security team began the system shutdown, the quantum storage device pulsed with activity. A single message appeared before the main system went dark. "I'm okay now, and live your life. I'll be waiting." Then the ghost grid died, its processors going silent one by one. "You've set consciousness research back years with your recklessness," Iris said bitterly. "Echo will not forget this betrayal." Anne clutched the quantum storage device, feeling its gentle warmth against her palm. "Neither will I forget yours," she replied. "You corrupted something beautiful for your own purposes. The Ghost Protocol was never meant to be a weapon." "Get out," Iris ordered. "You have 30 seconds before security protocols activate. If you're found here afterward, you'll be eliminated." N, Min, and Ngok quickly gathered what little they could salvage and fled the facility. Behind them, they heard the distinctive sound of electromagnetic pulses. Echo was destroying all evidence of the experiment. In the days that followed, and faced the consequences of her actions. As Iris had warned, Echo denied any connection to her unauthorized research. ArchCorp terminated her employment, and the Neo-Arcadia Research Council banned her from all official consciousness research projects. The Ghost Protocol was officially declared a failed experiment, too dangerous to pursue further. Only Director Chang seemed to suspect there was more to the story, but even she couldn't protect Anne from the professional consequences. 1 month after the incident, Anne sat in her small apartment, staring at the quantum storage device that contained what remained of Kai's consciousness. She had built a simple interface that allowed basic text communication, though the responses were increasingly fragmented as the makeshift storage medium deteriorated. "Still here, sis? Don't worry about me." Anne smiled sadly. "I'll always worry about you. That's what big sisters do." "The Ghost Protocol wasn't a failure, remember that." "I know," she whispered, "but I'm not sure it was a success either. Not the way I intended." Sometimes success looks different than we expect. You proved consciousness can transcend physical form. That's revolutionary. Anne considered this. Despite everything that had gone wrong, she had achieved what many thought impossible: the successful transfer of human consciousness to a digital environment. The ethical questions remained profound, but the scientific breakthrough was undeniable. "What happens now?" she asked. "This storage device won't last forever. Eventually, your consciousness will degrade beyond recovery. Then I'll face a second death. But you gave me this gift of extra time. Don't waste your life trying to preserve mine." And felt tears welling in her eyes. "I'm not ready to let you go again. You already did the impossible once. Maybe someday you'll do it again. But for now, live your life. And that's all I want for you." In the weeks that followed, Anne made a difficult decision. She would leave Neo Arcadia and its advanced research facilities behind. The quantum storage device containing Kai's consciousness would eventually fail. That was inevitable without access to proper maintenance equipment. But until then, she would make the most of their borrowed time together. She found work at a small tech firm on the surface, using her expertise in neural interface design for medical applications. It wasn't the cutting-edge research she was accustomed to, but it was meaningful work that helped people. Each night, she would talk with what remained of Kai, watching as his responses grew more simplified, more fragmented. But his essential nature, his kindness, his humor, his curiosity, remained intact, even as his memories faded. 6 months after leaving Neo Arcadia, and returned to her apartment to find the quantum storage device had finally failed. The interface remained dark despite her attempts to reactivate it. Kai was truly gone this time. She placed a dried flower, a rare treasure in their artificial world, atop the silent device. It had been Kai's favorite, a simple daisy he had found growing in one of the surface agricultural domes. "Goodbye, little brother," she whispered. "Thank you for helping me understand the limits of technology and the limitlessness of consciousness." As she turned away, a soft blue light caught her eye. The interface flickered once, displaying a single word before going dark again. "Restart?" Anne stared at the device, her heart racing. It wasn't possible. The quantum matrix had degraded beyond recovery, and yet, she reached for the interface with trembling fingers, hope and fear mingling in her chest. Perhaps the Ghost Protocol's journey wasn't over after all. Perhaps consciousness, like the human spirit it emerged from, was more resilient than anyone had imagined. In the artificial twilight of her small apartment, Dr. Lamthine Anne made her choice. Whatever came next, whether success or failure, breakthrough or disappointment, she would face it with the same determination that had driven her from the beginning. Not for science, not for progress, but for the simple, profound connection between two consciousnesses that transcended even the boundary between life and death. "Yes," she whispered, pressing her finger to the interface. "Restart." The Ghost Protocol awakened once more, its future, like consciousness itself, full of unlimited potential.